back to the channel. So in today's video, we're going to be looking at replacing the water pump. For all those that own Crusaders, or even those that don't, maybe you might come across a water pump situation where your factory water pump isn't as efficient, or definitely it's a lot noisier than you anticipated. So all the Crusader forums that I've been looking at generally all have the same complaint about the water pump, which is so noisy. So the idea of today's video is I'll be putting this Seaflow RV Supreme Mark II in, taking the old one out. We're going to look at what fittings you might need. As usual, I'm going to try and aim for whatever's easily accessible for everyone. Look at the process. I'm also going to look at doing a bit of a decibel meter reading on it, so old versus new, just to get a bit of a better gauge. I'll obviously be able to tell the difference in the sounds right here, but for you, through the TV or the phone or whatever you're looking through, may not be as evident, so I'll try and get a bit of an idea with that. Yeah, and we'll look at the process. Let's do it. Before I go through the process of explaining or showing you what you get in the box when you buy the Seaflow, I wanted to describe a bit of a challenge I found, or a bit of a possible trap I found when I was buying this. So the first issue I found was obviously the prices can range place to place you're buying from. That's obvious. It happens everywhere for every product you get. But when I bought my first attempt to buy this, I bought it off eBay, and the eBay listing had Seaflow RV Supreme written all over the listing, everywhere. Now, credit to the person I bought it off. When I received it and I realized it wasn't it at all, they did accept it back and give me my money back, which is fine. But ask the question beforehand if you're buying it off eBay. Like I said, the description everywhere had that terminology through the whole thing. It wasn't until I received it I realized it was a 42 series, which, you know, nothing wrong with the 42 series, just not what I ordered. Specs are different, and apparently it's not as quiet as this one, which we'll find out. So that was the first challenge. So just ask the question if you're not sure. The other trap I found, I've called a trap, but I don't know why. Maybe it's a scam, but some of the listings you'll see where it says, so you see this one here is branded Seaflow. It's quite obvious it's Seaflow. There's a few out there that look really cheap in comparison, but they're called Sealflow. S-E-A-L. Sealflow. So after the first issue I had, I didn't really want to risk it. And to buy these new from some places, you're looking at around the $170 odd, $180 odd dollar mark. I got this one. I'm not sponsored. I paid for it. So I'll rubbish it if I need to, or I'll give it a glowing review if I need to. But I got this through Outback Equipment. I think they're based in Queensland. They had a sale on, and I've noticed since I bought it, they have different sale intervals. So I think I got this one for $130 something. I'll post it up here. It went up $10 after that sale, so still cheaper than the original. There's a heap of different places you can get it from. But yeah, to find them on eBay for $108, even I think I've seen one listing for $88, which, you know, you get what you pay for, and some things are too good to be true. But yeah, I just noticed the logo was exactly the same as Seaflow, but it was called Sealflow. I don't know, I just wasn't risking it. So just keep an eye open for something like that. Okay, so as you can see, this is the box comes in. The part number, it's almost identical to the 42 series I was talking about. The difference is this one says RV1. The other one had some other variant of numbers and whatnot there. But yeah, other than that, pretty much the same. So when we open him up, instruction manual. This is fairly basic, which is great. So you've got a couple of fittings in here for different orientations and different pipes you might be using. A filter, which is a must. And then the pump itself. Tightly packed. So it looks like it's a fairly basic setup. So we've got a water in, water out. Electrically, you can't really stuff this up. It's going to be a negative and a positive. Righto, let's go and have a look at the job. At the water pump itself, we need to gain access, obviously, so we've got two screws here we need to take out, and two here. So I'll go and get them out now. Okay, all the shrouds out of the way now. For those that follow the channel know that I've got my diesel heater running through here. So my space is a little bit more confined than what you may be dealing with, but idea is still the same. So we can see we have, so this must be, let's work this out. The water in, yeah, there'd be water in. So we've got 2 water tanks joined together. Water goes in through a filter. The pump obviously pumps it out through the other side, and we've got our hose running back to inside the van. The blue hose runs into the van. Righto, so outside branding wise, looks like it says Flowjet, RV water pump, standard model. Righto. Let's do a test on this thing. Okay, so I don't do a lot of off-grid camping, so I don't use the water pump a lot. Hopefully soon to change. But let's look at turning the pump over so it's on, and then we'll do a test inside the van, see what the noise is like inside here. We'll do a comparison afterwards, and then yeah, we'll do one outside as well. So, to turn the water pump back on, we see a little pump symbol down here. I've only got the 1 water pump, but it's got a provision there for 2. So pump 1, which is our pump, it's in the off position. So in theory, just press this little water droplet here, the screen will light up and it should change it to on. And that should be it. All right, let's test this. Okay, again, don't use the water pump a lot, but I'm assuming that I should hear this pretty heavily in here. Yeah, look, I don't know if that came through the camera real well, but definitely could hear it quite loud in the middle of the day too. Right up, I've asked the wife to go inside and turn the tap on just so we can get a, looking at it view, see how it sounds just outside the van. Being honest, it sounded noisier inside the van. That's all the tests I've been doing is inside. I think outside, I mean, it's still noisy. Water pump's not going to be silent, but it still feel like it was noisier inside. It might be because we've got hoses touching the van. Maybe it's vibrating through the body. Like if you have a look at down here, that's cable tied there. It's touching up the top here. Well, no, it's not. It's close. What's our pipe work like under here? Yeah, it's all right. It's touching the body. Oh no, it's touching the clamps. I don't know. Look, I'll do a like for like change out so we can compare it properly. And I'm still getting a lot of noise inside the van. We might look at the pipes and whatnot, but also it could be the way that this water pump's mounted. The mounts on this are, just looking at the difference between there and what the seaflow have, that's majorly different. So maybe that's it as well. I don't know. All right, let's get this one out and do a comparison. Looking at it, it looks like you're going to need a set of side cutters or something, some snips to cut the cable tie. 8mm socket or spanner, whatever you want to do just to undo these. These are just push fittings. Not sure if you've ever seen them before, but basically that ring there, that black ring, just pushes in, and it should be enough to release the tube out. Yeah, so let's attack it. Let's just turn these off. That's a smarter idea. Turn your taps off. Bit of residual water in there, as probably expected. Cool. So the pump's essentially removed from the bracket and that's separated, so I guess I just need to move the blue hose and pull that clamp in. Of course that one won't be as easy because it's an arsehole. Give me a bit of playroom here. I'll try and remove one of the other ones. nice lesson I and everyone can learn. Before disconnecting all the water hoses off the water pump, turn the power off to the water pump, and that way it doesn't just try and draw nothing. Okay, back to it. So I know that conduit houses the electrical cables. Well, what I don't know is whereabouts it stops. I'm guessing at the battery there somewhere, but I don't want to go that far back, so let's see how far back they've soldered it. Might be far from the pump. Because I have a really short memory, I've just realised that the conduit I was yanking on back there leads to my diesel heater. So I would say that these electrical cables run up the chassis. Yeah, go in that grommet and run up the chassis and probably come up closer to the battery end through another hole. That's fine. So what I'm going to do, we're going to cut these cables off here so I can rejoin at the same point. But I'm not just going to cut them away from the battery without thinking about it first. Could end up with a burnout, so let's have a think. Fast forward a bit, what I did was I was looking for some sort of way to isolate the battery power. I did not want positive power coming from this and then touching on anything along here and earthing out and creating a lot of sparks and that sort of thing. I'm not an electrician, but it's definitely going to do something wrong with wiring burning out at some point. Hopefully just a fuse, but whatever, I'm not running that risk. So what I found was, after looking at a couple of videos, I think this thing runs through the BM Pro and not directly to the battery as I first thought, which does make a lot more sense. So look, there's a couple of different ways of going about this. I'll show you the way I did it. And I'm not saying it's the right way because I don't want to be liable for your van. So basically what I done was, when I turned the pump off at the switch up in there, after I forgot to do it earlier, it has essentially isolated the power to here. So if you have a look, I'm on the negative terminal there and touch the positive terminal. I don't have any light coming through, so there's no 12 volt power coming through at all, which is great. It's what I want. But let me show you what, actually, you know what, I'm not going to show you. Basically what I was going to say was, there's a battery isolation switch under your bed or whatever your van layout is. Let me get this off my head. Yeah, so there's a battery isolator under your bed. You could choose to use that. That's probably the best way to go about it, technically speaking. I was going to do that until I went to test these lights, these wires myself with my test light, and I didn't have any power coming through it at all. So I figured that switch, even though it's a soft isolation, it still has worked. So that's what I've chosen to do. All you really want to do is have no power running through the positive and the negative, which I have at the moment, no power at all, because I am going to be soldering those up. That's it. So all I've basically done was, if I pull this thing back up, is I've just basically cut the negative and the positive off in there. When I did dig a bit deeper with that conduit, you can see where it's actually been joined on that yellow and white wire up there. Yeah, that's it. So anyway, it's out. Isolate as best suits you. I recommend a full isolation wherever possible. I've just gone from turning the switch off at the panel display above the door, but you do you. Make sure you test it first. So here's our two water pumps, old one, new one. Look, I guess there's a little bit of difference in them physically. Yeah, the body on the old one, which I'm assuming is where the pump is inside there, the body on the old one's smaller. But the head on it's bigger. Yeah, big deal. So spec wise, and look, I don't know much about specs, but okay, so the difference from what I can see is the old one has a max current draw of 7.5 amps. The new one has only 6 amps, which is great, so it's going to draw less power from your Caravan. This one has a 50 psi pressure, when this one has 55 psi pressure. So I don't know, I guess they're both 12 volt. One's going to draw less amps, and it's going to produce more pressure. Great. But that's not the reason why we're doing it. We're doing it for noise. So another physical difference is, when I was talking earlier on about I wanted to use the old mounting bolts, I won't be able to do that. So you can see on the old one, the mounting plate here, it's rubber, which obviously would help to absorb sound. It's quite thin, and in comparison to the new one's about 3 times thicker. So a lot more solid. And another difference is the mounting pattern. It's slightly different. So holding them up close, I'll pretty much be able to use the same width at the front mounting bolts, but I'll have to re-drill the back points because that's too far out. It's not going to work like that. So that's okay. And I guess the other difference is how the fittings go into the pump themselves. So you see the old one here, it's just you pull the blue tabs back, give a bit of a wiggle, it comes out, and you've got a bit of an O-ring there that helps seal it, both at each ends. So it pushes in like that. Yeah, these ones here are threaded, and that's what we're going to be working on now. So let's get rid of the old one, and we need to set the new one up to be running almost identical pattern wise. So the caps come off the end. Now I've had to buy a couple of parts, and as I usually do, I try and make these as easily accessible as possible. So if you're trying to mimic something at home, you can. So I've gone to a hardware shop, sorry, a plumber, and to Bunnings. So the biggest thing about it is we need to get some John Guest fittings. John Guest apparently is the original maker of these push-pull fittings, and basically allows a 12mm tube to go inside there, and then when you pull back, it locks it in place. It can't come back out. So to release them, you just basically, if you can, you just pull that tab back, or sometimes you've actually got to push the fitting in and then release it back as it pull back off. You can also get clips that go inside that little gap there and allow it to hold in place. I haven't gone them clips, but you can if you want to. It's a bit of added security, but I have noticed they obviously do flex back into position quite well. So what I needed was, and I'll grab my paperwork so you know, I had to get, so these things here were called a John Guest swivel elbow, 12mm by 1/2 inch MIBSP. So basically 12mm fitting it at the John Guest end, 1/2 inch threaded end on the other side. And I also needed, that's so we can join our pipe work. So if we go comparison again to the old one, we basically needed to mimic, so we need to have one come out here, which is there, but obviously we need to have a joiner, and the other end will need to be like that, so I need to have an elbow to go in there. And I got them from Bunnings. They were quite simple brass fittings. So here we are here. So we're looking at what they call these ones, just brass threaded hex. So brass threaded hex. This piece here was $4.18, and the other piece was, which one was that one? Oh yeah, so $6.64. So really not much, about $10 for these two bits. Price on these ones here, these weren't as cheap. I had to get these through Reese Plumbing. They had them in stock, which is great, but they were $12 something each. So for a bit of plastic, they're actually a little bit pricey, but not too bad. So budget around that $20-25 mark thereabouts, and you'll pretty much have exactly what you need. All right, so get this set up. We need to, so this was going to be an elbow, right? So basically just need a straight on. I'm going to have to get thread tape on this, but in theory, so that'll screw onto there, and this will screw onto here. That turns independently, that's handy. Right, so before I go too tight, I'll obviously thread tape them. So that'll go on there. And the other one, let's get that one started. Right now. Get it off the bench so the wife don't kill me. And I'll thread tape it up, but yeah. So, as we can see, we basically need that to mirror exactly what the old one was, and we're pretty damn close. I would say there'll probably be a little bit of adjustment I'll need to go with our pipe length. That's fine. Let's get some thread tape and get this thing happening. Something very important that I forgot to note is that we need to be running the water filter. So yeah, so basically ignore what I said on this side for now, because we need to incorporate that water filter. So if I back that off, I need to have, it looks like it's got some sort of a seal in there, but I reckon I probably still need to thread tape that. Maybe not. Okay, that actually does get a solid join before having to use thread tape. Righto, so then this here will go on that end there, and I think that will need thread tape. That's our layout. When you go on plastic into brass, you really don't want to go too tight. Look, at first I was just going to get FT, finger tight, not the other one. But I just, I want it also to seal up quite well. I don't want to be leaking. So, look, I'm going to give that a run and we'll see how we go with it. So, general layout, I'll have a bit of flexibility when this thing goes in the van. But we're really looking at where that's positioned, which is pretty damn close. And then where that's positioned, and we're out a bit. So, maybe the hose will just bend that way a little bit for me. I'd say it will. But lengthwise, I might be in a bit of strife there. If I mount that at the same position there. No, we're pretty damn close. That's actually looking awesome. Alright. So I'm going to put this in position and, I don't know, go from there. So that's our area. I'm going to give it a bit of a clean out before I permanently mount this thing in. Always better with a clean surface. But here's our pipe. So drawing from our tanks, so it'll be around to our inside, and then feeding back into the van itself with our blue one. Alright, let's see how it fits. So our blue one stops just shy of the end, which I can trim off if I need to. Inlets, we've got a bit of flexibility there. This is kind of perfect, really. Now it looks like our front mounts are pretty much where they need to be. And feeling at the back, I've got about an inch between that and the chassis. And it's not touching any of my heater hoses, which won't be a problem for you, but it could be for me. But no, I'm good. Righto, looking pretty much exactly what I need. So before I plumb this in, I think what I'll do is I'll take it back out. I need to work out where these mount holes are going to be. So look, I've got plenty room underneath to have a look where these holes are. So I think I'll put some bolts through the center, through the top into here, and that'll allow me to mark up where me back ones are going to go. Now to do the wiring. Again, very simple, positive to positive, negative to negative. You can use crimp terminals if you like. I'm going to solder it just because I've got a solderer here. As long as you keep everything covered. Maybe if you are going to crimp it, just run some Leco tape around those joins. Other than that, it should be okay. Right, so I'm going to get onto that. I'm going to use some heat shrink and get it done. So now, all I should really need to do is just start joining these pipes back up. As I said earlier, these John Guest ones just press in. I won't be able to get a good camera angle, but let's just work with it. You see here, so this is how the John Guest works. You basically got a clean cut off, you feed the pipe inside, and then as you go all the way in, you pull back out, and it locks on. That's it, simple process. Got some 30mm M4 stainless bolts and some nylock nuts, and I'm going to put them in with the washers. Had some washers laying around. Can't hurt to use them. Alright, so what I'll do is I'll cable tie this back on so we can compare apples with apples. We'll do a bit of a test. This is supposed to be self-priming, so we'll see how that goes. And then I'm thinking that I might end up cable tying this just off this tin, off that steel there. I might try and bring that up a bit, but no major drama. That's a bit of a play, and we'll see how we go. Okay, cable tie is in. Looks like it's fairly sturdy, so we're going to go turn it on inside and see if we notice anything. As per usual, we just have to turn the pump on here, so that says on. That did some sort of a sound. Sounded like the pump kicked into gear. Okay, I can hear the pump. Can't remember if it's any louder. Definitely doesn't sound annoying. Pressure definitely seems better. Last time it was only sort of kicking to the edge of here. Now it's kicking over to here. That sounds so much better out here. Okay, so two things I learnt. It won't prime if the fittings aren't fitted 100% correctly. Like this bit here wasn't joined back in 100% right, so I think it was drawing air or something like that, and it wasn't priming. So once I got that fitted incorrect, it was good. The other thing is, this joint here and the other joint on the other side, they needed more thread tape. They were they had, like, it wasn't a massive leak, but it was still dripping water, so that's now fixed up. Yeah, I didn't do the decibel test because it was too unreliable. I mean, I was using a phone app. It was all over the shop. It doesn't give a fair indication. All done and dusted. So, look, overall it's a really simple job. I didn't find it difficult at all. I'll leave a link to the parts that you'll need in the comments. It's not a big job at all. As for a difference, I didn't really notice a huge difference inside the van. I noticed a little bit, but from memory it wasn't a huge difference. The drastic difference is outside the van. So that tells me that there's probably something to do with where the pipes are running, might be rubbing on the body or something like that. So maybe I'll look at that in future. But as for, I guess it's just looking after your neighbours when you are camping, or when you're sitting outside and someone's inside using the water pump. Huge difference outside.